afternoon, good people. This is Marcus Brown with ChessFrog OmniVersity. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you, Out of the Mud Productions, for having us. Today, we have a very special and beautiful guest. We have Miss
Trafina Clark. How are you this afternoon, Marcus?
I'm doing great. There's something that you want to share with us, right?
Yeah, just want to talk about Flint and our youth and being civically involved in our community and how that can help really make a difference.
Before we do that, the shirt for the day is iridescent, over a Cash Tech shirt, and our friend Trafina is going to share some very important writings with us right now. You ready?
I am. I just wanted to start off with, all of my work that I have done throughout the years in the community. It took some faith steps. And so the quote that that I kind of live by and that's hanging in my office is by Martin Luther King. And it says, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the full staircase, just take the first step. And so a lot of times whether it's in our homes, in our family, or when we do community work, the need is large and we don't know where to start, but we need to start somewhere. And so just taking that first step, having a passion about what you're doing, having a vision, and then I believe that, depending on who you believe in, but for me, my Lord will provide the provisions if he has called me to do the work. And so I just keep that quote from Martin Luther King in front of me all the time because sometimes it may be tempting to be afraid or to start worrying about a lot of things, especially if you don't have the resources to do the work.
Sometimes people fear change.
And sometimes people feel
they get into the habit of saying, well, I've been doing this for a while and I've been surviving. But we have to do more than survive.
Right.
We have to learn to thrive. We were in slavery. Now we're not. We need to learn how to start moving forward and thriving. Sometimes change is the most difficult thing. Being willing to step out of normal parameters and do something more than before. So I commend you on the quote, and I commend you on your efforts. I want to start off with people getting to know you a little bit. Where are you originally from?
Born and raised in Flint, Michigan.
You are a real Flintstone, authentic.
Yes, I am a real Flintstone. Grew up in the Fifth Ward.
Fifth Ward. this Texas, this ghetto boys.
And then we always go by our high schools that we graduated from, and I graduated from Northern, so that the Viking in the house.
Northern Vikings. All right, now. Did you ever leave Flint, or did you attend college anywhere?
I did leave Flint for a while when I was younger. My mom and dad got a divorce, so I went back and forth between Flint and Grand Rapids. Went to Grand Valley State University first. I started off, and then I went to Atlanta Christian College to come back and finish up here with my master's at Michigan State University.
If you could offer any words of encouragement, you've already offered us some words of encouragement about change and pushing forward. If you could offer any words of encouragement to the youth of Flint, what would those words be?
Say, hang on in there, get around and connect yourself to good people that's headed in the same direction as you, because a lot of times we have a lot of negativity around us that can keep us down or pull us down. But if you know and have a vision for your life and a goal for what you want to accomplish in life, connect yourself to those types of people that's going in the same direction as you.
Watch the company you keep, right?
Yep.
If you can't bring them up, they must be bringing you down. So, when you were younger, what was the coolest thing or the coolest place to be at here in Flint?
My mom kept us in church. It might
not. Church was a cool place.
It was.
You wasn't a mall rat.
I wasn't a mall runner.
Was not a mall rat. Didn't hang out. What church did you go to?
Even though I wanted to do a little bit more than Bible study, choir practice, Sunday school, church, the prayer meetings, my mother kept us in church to keep us safe because our neighborhood was not the safest. But I think even in that, danger did, come to us. But we went to several churches throughout growing up, and I don't want to like say any names because one did not serve a better purpose than the other, but I think all of them helped me grow in my spirituality and help me keep me grounded. And regardless of what tribulation came about, I could always go back to my word and stand on the word of God.
Okay. When you were coming up, what music was out there playing? What was the bangers on the radio?
Oh.
The young people that listen to this want to know what we were listening to when we were
You know,
kids.
Tupac, Biggie, TLC.
Oh, you a youngin.
Cool J. I'm an '80s baby.
Okay.
So,
All right. What do you see as the future for Flint? If things go well, if things happen the way they're supposed to, what would you like to see happen with Flint?
I would love to see a thriving and inclusive Flint. I believe that we have a lot of great leaders. There's some movers and shakers, and there's making some things happen. And so, if we collectively continue to work together and really help grow up our young people to step into those roles as people begin to transition or move out of the city, we can continue that momentum so that everybody can have a fair chance and a fair opportunity to quality education, to to all of the things that they need to really thrive. You spoke about thriving and not surviving when we first started off. And so when you envision a thriving community, I always say it's about people that care for each other, that has intentions on helping to bring up one person and not just self-centered and thinking about
Mm-hmm.
themselves, and that we care and we try to figure out ways that even though diversity may happen, how can we work together to overcome it.
Okay. Well, there are people out there, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate right here.
Mm-hmm.
There are people out there that say that there's corruption here in Flint, that certain things are happening certain ways as far as gentrification goes, as far as loss of houses, as far as post water crisis survival, things that are going on that are misshaping the way or the progress. What do you say to those naysayers, or what do you say to those that are scared of the change that's coming?
I would say, I mean, you have a both and the naysayers. Some of it is true, but I think in every community you have your corruption. You have people that have their own agenda, and it's up to community. When I talked about civic participation and using your voice to advocate and hold people accountable, especially those that are in a position to help implement the things that's needed and allocate the resources that's needed in order to uplift everyone. It's about us being able to hold them accountable and hold their feet to the fire. And so, even though those things that you mentioned that are negative may exist, how are we as a people collectively coming together to make sure that it doesn't, if it's happening, that it doesn't continue to happen, that it is exposed, and that we are making sure that the resources get to the people that are in need of them. Um, I would also say that for those that are afraid of gentrification, when you think about communities all over the nation that have tried to, you know, bring up their property values or, bring more jobs in the community, it's always trying to attract that new talent, which that causes gentrification. But if we do it in parallel of making sure that the people that have been here for the longest also receive the resources to increase their property value and not be pushed out by outside investors that's buying their homes up for cheap because they can't pull any equity out to fix it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding out those strategies that are really needed to help the people that's here to stay and grow with the community as it changes and change with them and not be left behind. And so if we can work together to not only attract um, younger talented people of skill sets, but also build up the knowledge and skill sets that already exist in the community and
Mm-hmm.
help increase our capacity to not only do the work, but also work with and walk with them that are coming in to do the work as well, then that's how you stop gentrification. And that's how you ensure that nobody gets left out, or being also making sure you can hear people to understand. We always talk about data and using data, but if you
Mm-hmm.
don't listen to the people and understand what's actually going on in the ground, you don't know how to really strategize in order to make sure that everybody is coming along in a healthy and a prosperous way.
Okay. This is ChessFrog OmniVersity, brought to you by the good people of Out of the Mud Incorporated, a media company, C Corp. Give us a call at 248-820-5053 or chime in on Facebook and let us know if you have any questions or comments or anything you want to share with us. Hit us up. All right, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here
Mm-hmm.
because this is what I honestly believe. Things flow like a pendulum. One day, this community is all white, and we have ethnic laws that prevent people from moving here and there.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, we get we get Brown versus education, and we get white flight, and white folks are just flying out to the suburbs because they don't want me barbecuing next door to them and throwing my watermelon rinds over the fence.
Okay.
Right now, we're seeing a kickback where the good white folks want to come back to the city and buy some of this low property with nice houses and nice bones and class and character. Do you think this gentrification is natural? Do you think it's harmful? Do you think it's just a wave and then 10 years from now it's going to fade back to being quote unquote the hood? What do you think about gentrification?
So I'm totally against gentrification, as I just spoke about, and I think it's a way that you can bring people back to the community, but also support those that are still there. And if we're talking about being inclusive, what is the best way to do that without people not getting left behind? And so you will see whether you white or black, people come in with all different types of income levels.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Flint is attractive because the property is cheap, the housing is cheap because of several different reasons that stem from that stems from um, structural racism.
Mm-hmm.
So
Institutional racism.
institutional racism. And even when you look at it now, the people that live in Flint, even though the homes are cheap, they're old housing stock, so their utility bills are outrageous. Their home and property taxes are outrageous. It, and you could go right in the suburbs and you're paying half, if not less than that, for those same things. And so, what I say is, we need resources to help improve the housing condition, make sure that housing is equitably equitably affordable, because again we
Mm-hmm.
talk about affordable housing, but affordable to who, and making sure that people can stay in place without getting pushed out. And so you have Caucasians that are poor just as black people that need somewhere that's affordable to live, but nobody wants to really come to communities if their school system is not good, and that they have transportation issues to get to and from work or other places of need. Flint is unique in that position because we do have public transportation, and
Mm-hmm.
they work together to get people to out counties where they can find employment. So there's some opportunities here, but at the same time, what are we doing for the people that's already here that's struggling? Because whether you're Caucasian and you may be lower income, if you have a home that you can sell, most of the time that home is worth more than $20,000, $40,000. For people in Flint that their home should be worth more, they are only getting $20,000 and $30,000. Where that's just a down payment on something. They can't even go in and improve it. Where people are coming in with money that they can improve the home, and then it's worth twice as much. And so we have to do something to equal the playing field so that people that's here are not being left out and are able to be able to fix up their homes so that they're worth more, and don't have to turn it over to someone else, an outside investor, for example, because they can't afford to keep up the utilities and repair the home at the same time, but they're on limited or no or fixed income.
Okay. The word gentrification was used earlier. Examples of gentrification occurred in Harlem when former President Bill Clinton decided to set offices in Harlem. And immediately following him putting his offices there, a lot of other white folks wanted to come in. And the black people that normally and usually and traditionally lived there were actually forced out because of the increase in rents, the increase in taxes, the increase in values of the property actually forced a lot of poor people that had lived there for years out. You get a Starbucks, you get a Natural Foods, and the writing is on the door. You got to
Yep, that
go.
was the first sign of gentrification.
You got to go.
But I
There's a
think
fear
there's
of that
I'm
here in Flint because I mean the north side is prime. The north side has been neglected for so long. We
mhm.
can't even get a dog catcher to come pick up the running around pit bulls over there. But you know full well if there are pit bulls running around downtown or near Civic Park or near the cultural area, that would not flow and it would be taken care of.
And you get fined if you're in other communities. If so what I would say is I remember actually 10 years ago going on tours across the nation in areas where gentrification was an issue
Mm-hmm.
and where you had you know low income apartment housing or the hood whatever you want to call it, but then when people start moving in, building up homes, they start um, improving the the schools in the area. So then the black people either had to be relocated or they kids had to go further to go to schools because it no longer could, the school became have to pay a private school. Now you got to pay for something closer. I even remember residents talking about how they could go to their local grocery store and have get stuff on credit until they got their check at the beginning of the month.
Mm-hmm.
But no, those things were no longer
Well,
available to them.
the concept of a local grocery store. I mean, I know of Mr. B's and what's the name of the one on Pearson Landmark?
Hmm.
You got Hutchinson's. You got a few stores that are left in the city, and they are trying. I don't necessarily agree with the ways they're trying sometimes by selling the stuff they bought from Myers that's on the day old shelf and bring it into
And put
here.
it.
Or one year they had rib tips on sale at one of these places,
Hmm.
and the rib tips were freezer burnt and over 3 years old. But the guy said, "Well, I'm selling them at a discount. I'm
Because they
selling poison
expired.
at a
Yeah.
discount."
Okay.
So I think there's a misconception there when we start talking about the best ways to serve the community. We have food deserts that
Hmm.
need to be rectified. And it's funny that living in the suburbs is actually cheaper. If you have a Walmart or a Myers, that same bag of chips might be half price,
Hmm.
or that soda pop might be half price. It's weird that you get higher prices in the city for a bag of chips or for a soda
For
or
everything,
for a tomato, for anything.
for
It,
gas.
it costs more in the city
Hmm.
than out. Yeah, exactly. Gas. You drive over to Dort and you can find it 30 cents less once you pass Dort or once you hit Linden.
We tax poor people,
Where
and then we talk about
that's how we keep them poor.
the reason why they can't, yeah,
I
get
actually
themselves
and
out of.
honestly think
Yeah.
there's a machine out there that says, how do we keep poor people poor?
Hmm.
We pay them less, we charge them more, and we make it economically unfeasible to be poor.
Yep. And I'll just give an example just this weekend, which is close and dear to me. Like I'm a person in my family that a lot of people look up to, and they look to for help.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been helping my family knowing that they need transportation to get back and forth to a job so that they can make money. But it seems like every time they get over one hurdle, it's another one. So whether it's
It's
okay,
almost like good times, huh?
yep.
Just as soon as James got that job and coming home with the money, damn, damn, damn.
But I got my nephew a car not even 2 months ago on Mason and Taylor on Friday night. Somebody hit him and kept on going. And now he was about to start a job this week, but he don't even know how he can get back and forth to work because he no longer has a car that's running, which is going to cost just to get it moving $2,000, which he only has $200.
Mm-hmm.
So I can either help with that, but I'm like, you still owe me for a car note because I paid for the car. And then he still has to pay he only could
Sometimes
afford
it's hard to be that
PLPD.
successful member in a black family.
But I'm just saying, it's just like the mounds and mounds of things that they have to overcome. And when
Mm-hmm.
you talk about limited income, especially when the job that's closest to you only pay $12 an hour, but your rent, your utilities, your car note, your car insurance exceeds that amount, and people saying you need to save, you don't have the money to save because you're in this
It's
rate.
almost like they planned this so you would never escape it.
Yeah.
It's almost like sharecropping, or dare I say slavery.
So I just say that just to say that we make it hard for people that's living with low income,
Mm-hmm.
and then we wonder why they can't pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
or why they get frustrated and don't want to just say, well, you know what?
Yeah,
The man
because
got the game worked out. 248-820-5053. We got Trafina Clark here. Great person in the community to know, great supporter of the Flint community, and has done some great works here. Out of the Mud Incorporated Productions. Today we have a special guest producer. Say hi, Mr. Mayfield. Is it the greatest, the most wonderful?
The magnificent greatest Mayfield.
The magnificent greatest Mayfield. Not to be confused with them other Mayfields out there.
Yeah, right.
He's doing an excellent job with giving people the opportunity to come and speak live on podcasts. And so, Out of the Mud Productions, shout out to you.
It is appreciated. If you want to share, if you want to sound off, if you got something that's on your mind that you want to get out there, you need to talk to these brothers, Mayfield and Grundy, and they will put you on. If you got something good to say. Don't come up here being corny.
But I wanted
Like
to get
me.
I wanted to get back to when you talked about gentrification. And so my whole point is saying that I went and looked at these other cities where it was happening
Mhm.
is that we can learn from those that have already went before us on things that worked well and things that didn't and that they found challenging. So whether it's like right now, people probably don't know in Flint, you may your property taxes may be one amount, but as soon as you sell that home to your family, then they reassess the property and it'll go up higher. And so when you think about gentrification and property values rising, there are ways that you can freeze taxes at a certain amount for those that have been in the community for a long time. So as those property taxes continue to rise, theirs won't increase over a certain amount. So as a city, I know we're already looking at things like that, but we need to figure out ways and strategies. Again, I always say that we don't push the people out that's been here for the long haul just to attract others that may come in with more money and resources. But we need to make it that we attract those others to bring in resources and investments while we also put supports in place for the residents that's been here for the long haul.
I've been here for about 10 years, and I will never claim the title of being a Flintstone. I live in Flint. I like Flint. I like the people here. But the welcome that I've received here in Flint, I've been denied the right to get a homestead. I've been denied the right to get a farmstead. I've tried to talk to people downtown and been rebuked. It's almost like, wait a minute, I'm coming here spending my money and resources, starting businesses, hiring people to work, do X, Y, and Z. And it's almost like they're pushing me away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, because we need that tax base here.
Right.
If you don't have an understanding, real quick, basic civics, you have a city. If people are working, they pay their taxes. That means that somebody can pay to have the streets repaired, streets shoveled. That means street lights can be fixed here, there, and everywhere else.
Right.
Now, when white flight occurred back in the early 70s, a lot of that tax base got taken away.
Mm-hmm.
So it was harder to fund garbage collection as a city issue or to fund the light repairs or to fund this, that, and other thing. Quick, dirty history. So we're in a situation right now where the tax base here in Flint is not exactly enough to control or oversee the infrastructure.
Right.
We've also lost quite a few people in here. I think Flint has at least the capability of holding 200,000 or more people. Right now, we're down to 70 or 80,000 people.
80,000 people. Mm-hmm.
So the infrastructure here has changed significantly. I say we should take this crisis and find a way of finding the silver lining, because it's a great thing when you can have a house and have two empty lots next to you,
Mm-hmm.
so you're not smelling your neighbor's food or hearing them argue or whatever. I really enjoy the property that I have on the north side because I got room to spread
Mm-hmm.
out, to grow stuff, to plant trees, just that other thing. I think we should take advantage of this. Part of the problem is that there are weird things going on behind the scenes that prevent the average person from buying a land bank house. There are little dirty things going on where if you're not on the right side, your taxes might get readjusted. I have one property, and Stacy Kaka, the tax assessor,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get a meeting with her to discuss my property and getting a homestead couldn't get a meeting with her when she refused to file the paperwork to augment my property. So you come to a city and you find corruption or you find people being less than professional, it's kind of scary. I think the number one thing that needs to happen is that there needs to be a cleanup done downtown where people re appreciate professionalism, reappreciate being civil to customers and stuff. Because I've seen people trying to pay their water bill get cussed out and be treated disrespectfully by civil servants. There needs to be an adjustment in this town, all the way from the police department to the civil servants that work here and there, to the courts, to the prosecutor, to the jail. Just the way that this city runs, people have found their own little pockets and caveats. It kind of scared me because I had my grandson in the school district here, and it scared me when this one family was able to hold up the school district money because the superintendent didn't want to meet with them. That sounds like some old 1930s boss hog type stuff. Some stuff here needs to change, but stuff needs to change everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I say that if you don't have your voter registration right now, get it. This next election is going to be major. And yes, you already know that I know, and you know, that only electoral college votes for the president, but there are a whole bunch of other positions that are being filled and need to be voted on. So it's important as a community that we vote
Mm-hmm.
and that we engage civically.
Yes.
Do you have any ideas about how people can engage civically beyond the voting? Or what can they be doing, or what can they get involved with?
Yep. So I'll just go first back to the voting. Like Michigan League of Women Voters just released their voters guide. It's
Mm-hmm.
nonpartisan voters guide. It gives you information about the candidates that's running, their platform, like that. They're dispersing those documents out in the community today. So just contact, you can even call me at 810-293-7752. Again, my phone number is 810-293-7752. If you want to get your hands on one of the voter guides so that we can be informed.
What's the name of the organization? Because people are going to Google it, or probably could Google it also.
League of Women Voters.
League of Women Voters. We'll repeat that. We'll also repeat your phone number so people can get a copy of this voter guide. Sometimes,
But they're delivering it all over the city. So maybe your neighborhood hub center may have one. Some people have them in their churches. But if you can't find one, or if you can't go to the website to identify where they're located in your community, feel free to give me a call and I can put one in your hand.
I would never tell anyone how to vote or who to vote for. I honestly believe that that's a sacred duty that everyone has, and you don't have to share who you're voting for or why you're voting for this person. But having a guide like that that tells you that this person supports abortion, or this person doesn't support abortion, this person is for the death penalty or not for the death penalty, this person wants police reform, this person does not. Having a guide like that kind of makes it easier, because I know that sometimes I'll sit in the voters booth and like, I ain't heard of even one of these characters or clowns, and sometimes just picking, oh, I got a cousin with that same last name.
Right.
It might not be the best way to go. So being an informed voter, and there's no excuse for not being an informed voter these days with the internet available. It might be good. What I would love to see is if they started posting the ballot everywhere, like 2 months ahead of time, so people can be like, "Ooh, this is what the ballot's going to look like," and they can think about how they're going to vote.
They do have it available online, but I know everybody might not have access to internet.
I would have it on the side of a bus. I would have it at the grocery store, just so people can get familiarize themselves with it. It seems like an easy way to get civic involvement if that's what people really want
Right.
to happen.
People are informed. So that's a great idea. We need to talk to a couple of people and see if we can
I have
make
a
that happen.
billboard here, supermarket, downtown. You're seeing this ballot everywhere before the election.
Mm-hmm.
And that way people are like, well, who is this guy? Oh, I went to school with them. Or, oh, no, we can't vote for that person. I saw them at the strip club the other day. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
yep. And we know it's a national election, but just remember that voting down the ballot for those, your local city council, your school board, those are the things that will impact you on your day-to-day life. And so it's important to get out to those elections as well. And we'll have some people on the ballot this time. But just know who your candidates are, be able to make informed decisions on how you vote. The other thing I would say about civic participation is whether you belong to a church group, a youth group, or you have a neighborhood block club or association in your community, being able to get involved to take action to help make a positive change in your neighborhood, being able to mentor or help um, tutor young people, is being able to volunteer in your community. Um, when you see or hear that there's open times where you can go and talk to your elected officials, or whether it's a city council meeting and there's an issue that you're really concerned about, or you have something that you want to advocate for, being able to prepare yourself to be able to talk about what's important and why they should vote or allocate dollars a certain way. But showing up to those coffee conversations or those community forums or even those input sessions or conversations that whether again our local officials have, our funders have, so that you can be able to share with them what's on your mind, what really is important to you, and the things that you feel that need more allocation of resources in your neighborhood, because they're here to listen. Hopefully, they'll listen and hear and do something with that information, but we can't determine that unless people actually go out and voice their opinions in a healthy way, not always confrontational. Sometimes it takes some agitation.
Well, confrontation.
You know what I'm saying? It takes some confrontation
There's
and
nothing
agitation
wrong with
sometimes.
civil
Right. Right.
confrontation.
But go with the facts. Sometimes we always make assumptions, or we um, have conspiracies. Not saying that all the conspiracies are not true, but try to be as informed as
They are
possible
listening on the phone. They are listening on the phones.
when we go down to make a stance about something, because again, a lot of elected officials, they do look at data, but our duty is to help them understand what that data means on the ground to real people living in their communities.
I would say there are people out there who can be civically engaged at a political level and want to go to those meetings, but there are so many different ways you can help and support your community, from volunteering at your church or volunteering at a school
Yes,
to cleaning up your neighborhood. I mean, if you just don't want to leave your neighborhood, make sure your part of the neighborhood is clean or your area is clean. There are so many things that we can do to make the world a little bit better. Everybody needs to be asking themselves, what did I do today to make things better? Did I
definitely.
feed somebody? Did I do a good deed? Did I pick up a piece of trash? It's little things that we can all do, and we need to find that positivity
Yep.
again.
And I would say pick up the trash. I remember riding down the street with someone and they threw trash out the window and said, well, we need to keep our city employees working. Now that don't make any sense at all, especially if we know our city is under resourced. So how are we helping to improve the conditions in our neighborhood, to help our neighbors, and to really be able
I
to
live on a busy
give
street.
back?
I live on a busy street, and I have like about at least 500 feet of frontage.
Mm-hmm.
So all the McDonald wrappers and liquor bottles and all this other stuff, I almost want to build some kind of giant sculpture to to dedicate to the litter bugs. You you are a reflection of your mama. That's all I got to say right there. If you throwing trash out the window, guess what we think about your mama. So let's stop littering. Make your mama proud. Pick up some trash.
And the other thing I would say too, because I do a lot of volunteering in the community, and it's great for people to tell me that you're doing such a wonderful job. But if you see that the job that I'm trying to do is larger or would take more time than I have to donate, it's always an honor when people come out, lift up a tool, and get to work alongside of us as well. And so if you see something happening in your community and it looks like they can use a couple more volunteers, even if it's just an hour of your day, one day out of the week, find a way that you can help. Again, it will be greatly appreciated. We do love the thank yous, and you have it looking beautiful, but we also need the support and physical
Labor out there.
labor out there.
We need hands and minds and everything else. Something that you addressed earlier when you mentioned education earlier. I think we are in line and we are due for a major education reform.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about not an expensive educational reform. We need to start including critical thinking and creative thinking back into our programming. We need to move away from this system of standards where we're chasing the rote answer A, B, C, D, or the first president was George Washington. We need to start asking why was he the first president, or how did he become the first president? A lot of the questions our kids get asked is the what, but not the why. Why is always a little bit more difficult. Why is he wearing that ugly shirt?
And if we talk about innovative, if we want people to be innovative, we need them to be creative and we need them to be problem solvers.
Right.
So we have to be able to expose them to that and really help them to explore in those areas of their creativity and build on it and their problem solving, that critical thinking, because that's what's needed in order for us to be able to solve some of these everyday problems that we're having today.
I suggested during COVID that Flint School District could take the lead and do something innovative. You take your best and your best volunteer teachers, teachers who are doing a great job, master teachers or tenured teachers, and you start recording them daily. Record them doing a great lesson. That's another thing. They might be doing the same lesson, but it's good to have that multitude. I think Flint School District should create a YouTube channel, and they have the best of their best showing that. So if a kid misses school, guess what they can do?
Go on YouTube, which they're already on anyway.
Right. And they can go into Khan Academy and honestly be doing their homework or figuring out how to do the homework. I taught for over 20 years, and as a teacher, I'm confident. But sometimes you just don't reach a kid for whatever reasons. Sometimes you need to have it explained in a different voice or a different way. And sometimes by having that varied way of doing things, you're being innovative.
Right.
You're giving kids choices about what teacher is teaching them. You're giving them options also in case, Lord forbid, we have another shutdown. Kids can continue to go to school and get their lessons.
Right.
I pushed this ideal. I shopped this ideal. And guess what?
No response?
Nope. Crickets. I've been trying to find out also because at the beginning of the water crisis, the problem with lead has an intellectual and a behavioral side effect. It makes people more violent, makes them short tempered. It also makes them not think things through as fully.
Right.
If you read the history of lead, there was a prison in England, and they found that all these prisoners in England, the worst of the worst. I'm talking about the father rapers and the mother eaters. These just atrocious people. Guess what they found out?
What did they find?
They found out they all came from the same community,
which had lead.
And they found that there was lead in the water. They talk about being mad as a Mad Hatter because of mercury poisoning. Lead had a similar effect. They were supposed to be, and I think somebody is tracking the behavioral output for the school district. Like, did we increase in the number of fights this year? Did we increase in the number of suspensions this year, or did they reduce?
Right.
How did our standardized scores, or how are our standardized scores intellectually impacted by this crisis? I've been trying to find that information, and nobody has it. The school board doesn't have it. The health department doesn't have it. Somebody's collecting this data. And you want to know why I know somebody's collecting this data? Because this lead problem isn't going to be just a Flint problem. Any city over 75 years old, 50 to 75 years old, has lead pipes.
Right.
So this problem is something that's hatching in a lot of other cities also. It's almost like Flint is the experiment. Let's see what happens to these people so we can fix this problem later. So it's kind of scary that they're not sharing this data with us.
And it'd be interesting to see. I know you probably get like bits and pieces of some of the data overlaid with, okay, where was the most lead exposure at, and where are those kids going to school, and how is it impacting grades or behavior, but it might not have all been put together collectively and analyzed.
It's been years. They're supposed to be doing this yearly.
I remember my daughter went to Educare when it first opened up, and some of the questions that they asked us on the test, and then they asked us, can we have permission to follow your child throughout K through 12, which I gave permission. So yes, I'm pretty sure too that information is being collected and it's just how it's being used right now, and then when will they share it with the rest of the community or even the parents for the ones that participated in the study. um, because like you said, we early on we didn't know what the overall impact of lead would be on our children.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's 10 years later and we're starting to see some of that. And even with the testing that the children receive, whether they had learning disabilities or they're stagnated in their development, that information is available. And again, being able to see it publicly and understand what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
so that the majority of people know, not just an exclusive or exclusive.
Wouldn't it be great if
few.
those who represented us, the politicians, would follow up and find out this information if they cared enough to find out?
Because that's how you inform allocation of resources and
Right.
to meet the needs of the community.
Because certain neighborhoods don't get allocated the same way. And I've only been here for 10 years, but I applied for grants for a certain neighborhood on the north side, and I see that other neighborhoods have a tradition, and sometimes it's networking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a people person. I'm not a diplomat. I'm going to tell you firsthand that I piss people off sometimes, and I'm quote unquote.
No, not you, Marcus. Huh?
Yes, yours truly. You're a friendly host. Sometimes have a habit of being too direct and saying, "Hey, get on your damn job." There are people that can do that much nicer than me, and apparently that's what's needed in order for the North Side to get money, or more than that is needed, because I know my good friend Mr. Mays, uh, rest in peace, was kind of like that and being assertive. Right now, we're not seeing any change in certain parts of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one thing to love your part of the city, but the whole city has to move forward. If you leave certain parts behind, what are they going to do? They're going to move to your part, or at least come visit for a B&E or do whatever in order to get the resources they want.
No, but one of the challenges or one of the questions that I have always had, because we say, it doesn't mean it's a true statement, that there is limited resources. So when you have limited resources, if you just sprinkle money, a little bit of money across the entire city to make sure nobody gets missed, then you won't see a physical change happen. And so sometimes you have to target it in order to bring up or enhance one neighborhood until you can transition to the other one. One thing that I'm really frustrated about right now is that we see some of the projects in North Flint, whether it's Burston, the North Flint Food Market Co-op grocery store, where we have received hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in those projects, but they're still not over the finish line, and they need more money. And
Some of the
so
okay.
when we spread the funds that are available too thin, we'll see more projects like that people say, yeah, we gave to them, but they wasn't able to, whether they manage the money or manage the project. We'll come up with all of these excuses on why it wasn't successful, when it was they just didn't have access to capital as some other projects may have in other types of neighborhoods and communities. And so we need to work on identifying those key and critical things that will help to really uplift the community and fully fund them before we can move on. And it may be one or two projects in certain neighborhoods across the city, but what are those key things that is really intricate and needed to be able to provide access to the most important thing that's needed in that community for right now until we can move along to the next project.
I'm going to offer this criticism from the way I've seen grant money distributed here. Sometimes they won't invest in a long-term project, but they'll invest in a clever short-term project that washes away the following year, needs to be replaced. I would say that they need to be putting priority on projects that have a long-term effect, like planting plants here, planting plants there, building greenhouses. Those are going to stay. Cleaning up a lake, that's going to have a long-term effect. Now, if you're talking about whether or not you spray paint the curb here a certain color, that's not a long-term effect. Whether or not you do certain shallow things yeah, it feels good, but it doesn't have that long term effect. And I understand triage. You got 5 kids, you can't feed all of them. Sometimes you got to pick the best ones and the most vital child in order to get that college money to. But it hurts to do that, and it hurts everybody else to see that neighborhood keeps getting money, and they don't have to deal with this, and they got quick police response time.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts to other people, and it creates kind of like an envy, and maybe somebody wants us fighting against each other for these limited resources. My vision for Flint, I think Flint could become an international city.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I mean by international city?
And how do you do it without gentrification? Answer both of those.
Well, hold on, let me finish. Let me explain what an international city is.
Okay.
You got places like Houston, Seattle, where everybody gets free internet. San Francisco, parts of California, free internet, bike lanes, use of technology, solar this, solar that. I think by 2036,
Mm-hmm.
Flint could potentially host an Olympics. Sounds crazy, but the ideal behind the Olympics and where they get hosted at is also to help support distressed areas that have been worn out by war, by conflict, by poverty, by famine, this, that, and the other thing. And the Olympics has been successful in certain situations with helping certain places build up.
Right.
The Olympics doesn't always have to go to New York or LA or to great, great cities. Sometimes they can go to a city in need or a place in need. I think if we took the lawsuit money, $600 million, whatever it is, and when it breaks down, people are going to get less than $400.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? A good pair of shoes and a night out on the town, a really good night. Why don't we handy up that money and say, hey, Flint deserves X, Y, and Z. We need to have the Promise program, which is already going into effect, where kids are going to automatically go to college for free. But we've also had an intellectual destabilizer in the form of lead. Why not give internet for free, just like these other cities do, in order to compensate for that intellectual boost? We need that infrastructure.
You had to talk about healthcare too. I know right now I pay just a premium of $200, no, $400 a month on top of copays and things like that. So if you're saying take money away from people that's expecting that to help with their children because they have developmental issues or that they have health issues and they're continuously paying out of their pocket, then me as a resident of Flint, I would have an issue with that. Yeah, that's nice, and yes, we do need that infrastructure, but what am I going to do with my child when my family still have
that
personal needs?
One-time $400 payment really isn't going to serve you though. It'll feel good that 1 month, but what do you do next month?
But we still advocating for more because it's not justice. We
Right.
still haven't got what we've been promised. So I'm just saying, like, if we look at it holistically, yes, it's that broadband for everybody, but also universal health care,
Everybody
in the community. Yeah. So
go find Snyder, the billionaire. Everybody exposed to the ledge should get free health care. The lawyers who fought are not done fighting.
Mm-hmm.
No one has been convicted. No one is being held accountable. And it kind of shocked me a few years that there weren't major protests and rioting in the street when they announced, oh, we're going to let these people go. That kind of blew my mind. And maybe it's the Detroiter in me. We like to burn things sometimes, even our own community, because we're upset. But it just shocked me that there was no major protest. People died,
mm-hmm.
and
people are still suffering.
Right. This is almost like third world America, where we're not being treated the right way. We don't have access or the rights to water or to legal protections or anything. The law works for those with money. Snyder uses the money to buy lawyers to sidestep this thing that he caused.
And not even his own money. He used taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
So I know, and just to wrap this up, I know we were talking about really if we want to see a thriving Flint, what will it take?
Mm-hmm.
How do people get engaged and get involved in their community to help bring about a better community? And I started off with the quote from Martin Luther King, even when you can't see the whole staircase, Don't be afraid to have faith and take the first step. So, as individuals, as families, we need to really identify, how do I see myself playing a role in making Flint a better place for me and my family to live and thrive?
So this is applicable not just to children,
It's to everybody.
the elderly also. If you're retired, there's stuff you can do. There are people you can help. If you are working age, you can put forth an hour or two to help out people here and there. If you're a child, then there are things that we all can do. Miss Trefina, before we leave out of here, would you like to share your job title and what you do, or is that too?
I would not, but what I would say is I have worked in our community for a long time. Many of the jobs that I have held related to nonprofits, whether it was in the man's emergency shelter, when they first started off, to helping to coordinate like ho- programs for rapid rehousing, homeless prevention, and
Mm-hmm.
then also programs to help get residents connected, engaged, and build their capacity to get involved into community revitalization, as well as help to get dollars out the door to organizations that are doing great work in the community. So that's, I feel like, my calling, what God has called me to do, not only to help build my own family, create a legacy for us so that we can lift ourselves up out of poverty and be prosperous individuals, but also to see ways and to strategize with those that are in power, that can make decisions on how can we create that same type of conditions for everybody in the city of Flint.
Miss Clark, you are truly an angel to this community and a source of positive role modeling.
Thank you.
I appreciate your efforts and I thank you for your efforts because I know that sometimes we don't see the works that other people do or the little minor things or the major things that happen here and there. But you are one of the people that are definitely helping push Flint forward. We need more people like you. And I hope that this conversation inspires others. On that note, I want to thank people for listening. I want to thank Mr. Mayfield for being our producer extraordinaire.
Yes, thank you.
And I want to encourage others to come share their opinions and their points of view. Blow up that First Amendment right to have an opinion. And I think that Out of the Mud Productions is doing a fine job of making this opportunity available for people to share good and positive things. And hopefully, in the coming weeks, we can continue to be a positive thing. On that note, we're going to end with a poem. This is by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or does it crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? On that note, read between the lines, think outside of the box. Thank you. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Mrs. Clark, thank you again. So you gonna sing for us now?
Thank
Gonna
you.
sing?